Welcome back, you scrub lords, and this is going to be the final part of the 1.63 dev server preview. Now, the British did get about 3 airplanes to my knowledge. Let me check here real quick. Yes, they got 2 planes. One of them is the Brigand B1 and the Hudson Mark V. Hudson Mark V is a premium. The Spitfire Mark 9 also got its model updated. However, I did not cover these vehicles simply because, well, I really didn't care. If you guys really want to get a good feel for the Brigand, I believe that Slick put a video up on his channel, so I'll put a link to that in the video description. I'd like to direct your attention first before we get started up to the top right hand corner of your screen. If you haven't seen the previous 2 or 3 episodes, the links to that are going to be way up there, as well as my link to my Patreon if you feel like you want to donate and support the channel. It's just $3 a month, and if you want to set a limit so you don't go over your budget, you can. And without further ado, let's get started on this last part of the 1.63 dev server previews. Okay, so we're going to quickly run over the British and see what they've got here, at least for ground forces. So the first one here that we're going to take a look at is actually not this vehicle, this is next. Let's go check out the new British land ship. This is the A1E1 Independent. Now, I don't remember all that many details in this vehicle. However, if you go over to the Tank Museum's YouTube page and type in tank chats with David Fletcher, he does a episode on this vehicle, and only one of these was ever built, and it's still at the Bovington Tank Museum, and it runs. It still works. And it has some very, very interesting design principles in it. As you can see, it's riveted. This is a late 1920s, 1930s vehicle to my knowledge, off the top of my head. Now, you'll notice these massive hatches, like in the side of the vehicle. If you guys go and watch that video, I'll put a link in the video description. You will see that the guy who's talking tells about how the British wanted the ability to put a man who was on a stretcher into the vehicle. So they needed the hatch to be wide enough for a man on a stretcher to be put inside, or extracted from the vehicle. Which, why the hell would you... why you would need that? I mean, it's kind of it's one of those features, it's like, it sounds like a good idea, but if you put that many hatches on a vehicle, it sort of doesn't really help with the armor protection. Not that this vehicle has a lot of armor in the first place. 28 millimeters at the front. It's basically enough to stop 50 cals, but not much more than that. However, it does get a 47 millimeter gun, and it only gets an APHE round, which I believe this is the only British vehicle in the entirety of the British lineup that actually has HE filler in its armor-piercing rounds. In the entire British tech tree, I'm pretty sure this is the only one, other than the SPA vehicles. Those don't really count. So, an interesting vehicle, to say the least. However, usefulness, this is more of a gimmick tank than anything else. Much like the T-35, much like the Neubau Fahrzeug. Alright, let's move on to the other stuff. So, we're going to come up to this vehicle, the FV4202. When I heard that this vehicle was going to be rumored, that I became very, very interested in this patch. This vehicle has an interesting design history behind it, because this is the first vehicle where the British tested what's called the semi-reclined driver's position. So you can see how the driver is not sitting straight up. So you can see how in the Conway, driver's sitting right up. FV4202, driver's sitting straight up. Now, this vehicle influenced the design of another. See the similarities there in the driver's position? They were, at the time, technology, or transmission and the engine and power plant technology had developed so that way that driver was now the highest point in the tank in terms of the hull. He's now the highest point on the hull. So they figured if we could rotate him backwards, put him in sort of like a semi-lying down position, we can increase the front slope, thereby giving our tanks better armor protection, and we can keep our tanks lower profile. So the FV4202 was developed with this principle in mind. Now, in this game, it is armed with the 20-pounder gun. However, this is a 6.0 battle rating, and don't get yourself too excited because this does not have APDS, which is quite sad, to be honest. I really wish this vehicle could use APDS, because that would be hilarious, using this thing at 6.0 with a APDS round. Now, that might change. We don't know for sure. But I really wish that was the case. However, if you're currently in Tier 4 and you are on the Carnarvon, and you are trying to get to the Centurion Mark III, I would suggest hurrying up and trying to get this grind done as soon as possible, because you're going to have another vehicle you're going to need to research in this next patch. And the patch is probably going to drop next week, would be my best guess. In any case, moving on to the other major vehicle that they've introduced, this is the Swingfire. I already did a devlog chats video on that. If you want to go watch it, please do so, because I discussed a little short history and the development cycle of this vehicle. So let's give this thing a test drive. Now, I mentioned in the devlog chats that the vehicle fires its missiles up in an arc, and they come down onto the target. And that is certainly the case. Let's aim for the Yag Tiger out there. So you can see. And this is a second generation missile. As you can see, I'm guiding it with the mouse. Boom. Now the reload animation is kind of interesting. The launcher is brought down into the hull, a missile is loaded, and then it is brought back up to the firing position. Now, you'll know your missile is loaded when that back piece stops moving. Now, I thought that this was going to be a fully rotating turret. Turns out I am wrong. It wasn't a fully rotating turret in Armored Warfare, the other game this vehicle is in. However, the periscope does turn. However, much like the Raketen Jagdpanzer with the hot missile, if you're aiming off to the side like that, you cannot fire the missile. I am pressing the left mouse button right now, and I cannot fire it. So you're only going to be able to engage targets directly to your front. Now, one other downside about firing your missiles in such an arc like that is you have a very definite minimum engagement distance. So, let me aim the missile out right at the ground. Anything closer than that, you're not going to be able to hit with the missiles. At that point, you're down to your 30 cal, and, well, if you're having to use a 30 cal on a tank, you're kind of in trouble. So, you need to keep the enemy at arm's length. Now, you can hit this Panzer IIc, but you can see it's not the greatest of arcs in order to hit targets at close range. So, unlike the IT-1, this vehicle is not going to be able to quote-unquote shotgun things at point-blank range. Let's see if I can fire it at this angle. Nope. I have to be basically aiming... I have to be looking right at you in order to fire a missile. Now you can see it comes down and then it sort of readjusts itself. Let's fire at the mouse. It's probably a better test. These missiles, by the way, have 500 millimeters of penetration. We'll look at that in the modifications tab. So aim for the ammo racks. Penetrated, just missed the ammunition racks though. Fire another one. There we go. Boom. So it's going to be a fairly devastating anti-aircraft, or not anti-aircraft, SPAA vehicle. God damn it, I can't talk today. You know exactly what I mean. It's going to be a fairly effective ATGM vehicle. So look out for this one, and those of you fans of the British tanks, you're really going to like this one. So I mentioned we're going to take a look at the modifications for this vehicle. So let's go ahead and do that. So you get the Swingfire missile, and there you go. There are its statistics. 185 meters per second, and on the maximum speed on the trajectory. Semi-automatic guidance system, so it's second generation. 500 millimeters pen, so this thing is roughly equivalent to the IT-1. Let's see. Now, let's take this thing into a battle. Now, other than that, the British did not get any other vehicles this patch. The British actually got only a couple of vehicles. The Germans got a massive fleshing out of the Tier 5 tree. And so, I feel that the nation that's most going to benefit from this patch is definitely going to be the Germans, by far. Seeing as there are now 3 new top-end Tier 5 vehicles to work towards and research. With a nice Tier 2 tank destroyer, so. Alright, let's see if I can actually kill anything with this Swingfire, and hopefully I don't suck. Now you can see that the big advantage of this vehicle is the fact you're going to be able to just sort of poke the periscope up over the ridge without exposing yourself. And so, let's see, into the lighthouse. So... and then... so... see, if I set this up... alright, look at the arc. Hit it right on the dot. So, this vehicle is going to be able to sit behind the ridge, behind ridges, and engage enemy targets with basically impunity. Your only downside of this vehicle is its lack of armor and the fact that you only get about 14 missiles. So you have to take that into account when you're using this vehicle. And that's going to conclude the last of the 4 previews for the 1.63 dev server. I really hope you enjoyed watching them. If you guys have any further questions, please leave them down in the comment section. I will do my very best to answer them if I haven't answered them in here. And if you guys noticed anything that I got wrong, like I'm sure you guys have pointed out in all of my other videos so far, please let me know in the comment sections. That way I can throw up an annotation or two and correct it. In any case... thank you guys for listening. This has been many miles away. Keep your tracks checked, keep your binos in place, and keep around on the tube, and I will see you guys in the next video.